Hampton Roads has a long-running high school and college sports tradition. It's time to give them the spotlight they deserve. This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Here is Matt Hatfield.
We are delighted to be joined by a special guest. He is the beat writer for UVA for the Daily Progress. Check out all of his work online, dailyprogress.com. Give him a follow on the Twitter or the X2 at Greg Madia, all one word. He's a Heisman Trophy AP Top 25 voter, Jersey native, and maybe most importantly, a loyal Mets fan who is waiting for that great moment come October that they haven't had since 1986. Greg, happy summer. How you been, my friend?
Yeah, Matt, good to be on with you and Coach. It's good to see you guys. Summer's been good. It's been busy, right? Virginia, it's been a nonstop year. I feel like I've just kept going, right? There was the basketball coaching change in March, and then baseball season happened, and there was a baseball coaching change. So it's been nonstop on the UVA beat. Now only a couple of weeks away from the start of the football season. It's fun though. It's exciting. Keeps you on your toes.
It does. There's really no off season anymore. We'll dive into all the things with UVA as far as football being hot and heavy this time of year, but also get your thoughts on the baseball and basketball coaching things that have transpired here too. But I have to start with you being the Mets fan that you are. With what do you make of the deadline? Don't even worry about Friday night's extra innings loss to the Giants. That's in the past. But what do you make of the moves they've made? They bolstered a bullpen with Rogers and Soto and Helsley.
Yeah.
You got 6, 7, 8 bridge to Diaz in the ninth. But Cedric Mullins, I just have this vision. And maybe if this is a good vision for you, we don't have a Frank the Tank rant coming in October, throwing things, screaming things, and you shaking your head as an 8th inning, 9th inning agonizing loss. But I can just see Cedric Mullins winning you a big playoff game. I think that was a great pickup.
Yeah, I like the makeup, the what he brings in center field too. Like the Mets really haven't had a true center fielder who could hit a little bit, and since probably Curtis Granderson or when Brandon Nimmo was playing some center field, but Nimmo slid over to left now that he's a little bit more into his career, better equipped for a corner outfield spot. But Mullins excites me, and then the bullpen, like it reminds me of teams that have won. By shortening the game and taking some stress off the starting pitching. And the Mets, the starting pitching's kind of been up and down, was up early in the year. It's kind of been a mixed bag since. And I think this helps take some pressure off that starting staff that's dealt with some injuries.
Yeah, my Arizona Diamondbacks, as I rock with them. A couple of years ago, we had that moment in the Fall Classic. Got there shockingly, unexpectedly. We're not going anywhere since they got rid of Naylor and Suarez and Merrill Kelly. Did keep Zach Gallen and Ketel Marte and Corbin Carroll, thankfully. So my new role is to root against the evil Dodgers and the evil Yankees, which also just gets Ed's goat. So if you happen to see LA again in the NLCS, I'm pulling for you this time around. So
I'll take it.
There you go. Let's jump to the Cavaliers. We'll start with the football side of things. And we just ran it across your ticker moments ago. The ACC had this. I'm not sure if you were down there for media days or not. You were? Okay, so great. You can give us a big picture look at just the entire conference in general, your thoughts on it. But 17 schools with the addition of Stanford and Cal, as well as SMU a year ago. And UVA was picked 14th out of 17. Fair, unfair? What'd you think?
I think it's just so hard for people in my job to put together these preseason polls. I'll be very honest with you, right? Because the rosters have changed so dramatically. So I think it's probably a little bit of people not knowing exactly what Virginia did in the transfer portal this offseason, and also the historic kind of the recent history with UVA, right? It hasn't been good under Tony Elliott. They've won 11 games in the last 3 years. As he reminded his team when they were running sprints yesterday at the end of practice, you get to see a portion of practice, and then you wait for interviews, and you could hear him as we were waiting on the other side of the fence for interviews. So it was interesting, and I think Virginia is aware of what its expectation is externally throughout the year. But I think overall that's probably fair if you don't know a lot about what's happened this past offseason. I think when you start to look at how much depth they've added through the transfer portal and how many more able and experienced players they have, I think you would move them up a few spots at least. I had them in my preseason vote. I believe 8th as I remember. And I think that's more because they have a competent, experienced quarterback and who's proven himself at the FBS level. They have some more capable offensive linemen. That's really been the weak point of Tony Elliott's roster since he arrived in Charlottesville. And they've done a lot to enhance the offensive line unit. And I think if they can fix that, they're a lot of their problems will get corrected and they'll be on the ascent. That's a big if, right? Because just because you bring all these talented transfers in, that you still got to put it together in time for the start of the season. So to me, that's kind of the biggest difference in where my head's at. I think the group is talented enough with some of the transfers they brought in, particularly Brady Wilson, the center from UAB. Played that position his entire career, knows how to communicate at the line of scrimmage. They brought in some tackle help, McKeelan Thomas. Now, he was in a boot yesterday in practice, riding around on a scooter as he maneuvered around a practice field. He was an all-Sun Belt player at Arkansas State. They also have David Wallaba in from Syracuse, Kevin Wigginton in from Illinois, who started games earlier in his career at Michigan State. So they have some more experience. Tyshawn Wyatt from James Madison. So they've brought in some help on the O-line, and now they just got to figure out the five who will play. I think 3 starters locked in at this point are Mikhail Boley, who's back at UVA, and then Noah Josie, who's back. That's your left tackle, left guard, and then your center in Wilson. We'll see how they shake out right guard and right tackle. But I would think if they can fix the offensive line, the schedule is manageable enough that they should be able to run the football on offense and do some things they haven't been able to do in the past.
Yeah, Greg, it's interesting because one of our viewers last week was chiming in about some of the recent high school recruits, verbal commitments UVA's picked up, maybe getting a little bit more steam gaining here under Tony Elliott. And though they haven't had the results in terms of the win-loss record where they like, there's been some glimpses, some moments, some road upsets, if you will, at UNC, at Pitt. So maybe the urgency or the dire straits isn't what it is in Hokie Land, their rival, which we'll probably touch on in a moment. But you hit on that offensive line, which is so pivotal, because I brought up to someone last week that, they used to get some 4 or 5-star guys under Mike London. They got some guys that went to the pros. The quarterback position was the issue. It feels like no matter who the trigger man is, they've given up, is it 90 sacks the last 2 years? Something like that?
It's been a disaster. Yeah.
To get guys from programs that have either had success or they're vets, from UAB, Michigan State, that's got to help go a long way towards protecting QB, but also the running game, which has been a little hit or miss at times. I think it'll be a little more consistent potentially too.
Yeah, and that's been the objective since Tony Elliott and Des Kitchings got to Charlottesville before the 2022 season. Yeah, Elliott the coach and Kitchings the OC. And they've wanted to run the ball and be able to establish the running game. You've seen it very, very little that run game dominates and comes to fruition. The one game where it pops out is last year's win at Coastal Carolina for them. When Xavier Brown ran for 170 yards and the team, I think, rushed for 341, if I have the stat correct off the top of my head. But I think they'd love to replicate more of that, where the passing game is there to help create balance in the offense, not be what they have to do to move the football. So I think they'd love to run the ball. They feel like with Wilson at center, and then Josie and Boley on the left side, they played a lot of football together. And I think Boley, with UVA bringing in some of these tackles, from what I've heard, maybe there's been a little bit of a fire lit for Boley, who has some NFL potential, right? His dad played in the NFL with the Falcons and the New York Giants. So to me, I think the O-line is the most critical aspect for this team. And if they can get the run game right, it'll help them tremendously. Like I look at what they have at running back too. They've loaded up on depth at running back in order to be able to run the football. Like, Matt, you remember last year, that Virginia Tech game was a disaster. They didn't have a running back to give the ball to. Noah Vaughn, who really hadn't been used all that much, he was forced into a starting role and just wasn't ready yet. They think he's talented and has a bright future, but wasn't ready yet. And then they had to slide Chris Tyree from slot to running back after he hadn't played the position in 2 years since his time at Notre Dame. So to me, with what they've done, Jamari Taylor in from NC Central, Harrison Whaley in from Wyoming, to run with Xavier Brown, like that's a pretty good group, but it's probably going to be Taylor and Brown primarily. Taylor as the lead guy, Brown as the second guy, and then Whaley as the third guy. They haven't had that third guy, and then they're hoping whatever they can get out of Vaughn would be great. So I think that between the O-line and what they've done at running back, they've geared themselves up to be able to run the ball. The players just got to go execute now.
Yeah, just be adequate or at least capable to where it's not making you one-dimensional on offense. We're chatting with Greg Madia. He is the beat writer for UVA, our guest here on 757 Sports Talk on CoVA Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe, and also check out Greg's work, Daily Progress, in the paper there, also dailyprogress.com, and give him a follow on the X at Greg Madia. The schedule, Greg, I look at it, and it's that NC State game on the road early. If they're able to take it, I can hear the UVA fans already whispering, we got a chance to be 4-0 when Florida State comes to Charlottesville. But flipping over to the defense, Cam Robinson's an established name at the linebacker spot out of Essex High School in Tappahannock, Virginia. They haven't given up less than 24 points per game as a defense since 2018, which goes back to about 6-7 years when they last had winning seasons, or at least back-to-back winning seasons. How do they go about making other offenses one-dimensional? What's kind of the ceiling of this defense, the view of them as a whole, if you will?
Yeah, they're going to rely a lot on Robinson and James Jackson, as well as Trey McDonald at linebacker. It's interesting talking to some of the players over the last couple of days with all the newcomers on the defensive front and all the newcomers in the secondary. They're really going to count on Robinson to communicate and James Jackson to communicate the defense to the rest of that group and be able to get guys lined up and put them in the right position. The linebackers coach Mike Adams said, it's kind of on them, on that group, when I talked to him to make sure the defense is right and in the right spot as so many new faces learn it. Of course, Jameer Carter's back at defensive tackle, and Anthony Britton and Jason Hammond are back too on a defensive front. But they've got 4 new defensive ends, a couple of new backup defensive tackles, and then just a totally remade secondary. And that may be the biggest unknown of what this defense is how that secondary shakes out. There's 9 transfer defensive backs on the roster, Matt. That's a lot. That's quite a few in the secondary. So I think Virginia's going to use camp because 7 of them came in after the spring. So they've got to use this training camp to figure out exactly what they have at defensive back. Now, they like the group athletically, but you still got to see them perform. I think Donovan Platt, transfer cornerback from Army, will be a starter at corner. That would be my projection at this point. But the other spots, one of the safety spots will be Devin Neal, transfer from Louisville. But there are a couple other spots back there where it's like it's anybody's position who can go win it. At corner, maybe it's Emmanuel Carnley from Arizona who spent the spring at Miami. Maybe it's Jamarick Morris, a taller, longer transfer from Georgia State, or Jordan Robinson, who's 6'4" from Cincinnati. They like those lengthier corners, and it seems like those 3 will battle it out for the other spot, maybe opposite of Platt. And then at safety, you just got to figure out kind of what you have. Same with the nickel position. Maybe that's Jason Pavard, maybe that's Christian Charles. So it'll be fascinating just to see how that alone shakes out.
You mentioned it where you had UVA in your preseason poll, higher than the rest of the media, but nothing, outrageous, if you will. Clemson is the hands-down pick to win the conference. Do you think that's a slam dunk? I mean, last year SMU was roaring back, almost pulled it off. I'm getting a lot of feels from people that Georgia Tech is this year's surprise or buzz team, if you will. And there's a lot of panic in places, even not just Charlottesville got to win with Tony Elliott, but Virginia Tech, Brent Pry got to win, or it could be, time's running out for him. What's kind of your assessment of the conference, which is not, viewed on the same level as the big SEC behemoths and Big Ten, but what's your view of the league in general?
I think Clemson's going to be really good. With Klubnik back and those defensive linemen, Peter Woods leading the way, I think that Clemson team is going to be excellent. They've got talent at receiver, Antonio Williams. They can move him all over the place, outside, inside, have him take a jet sweep. Year 3 for Klubnik and Garrett Riley working together. Dabo has stuck to what he does, right? And that's build and develop through the high school ranks. Feels like I think Klubnik said it in Charlotte a couple of weeks ago. that they've been young for the last 2-3 years, and all of a sudden now they're old, and they're hoping that this is the year they turn the corner and become that national championship contender that they were, 7-8 years ago regularly.
So beyond the LSU game, you'd be surprised or shocked if they fell in conference play.
Yeah, I think this Clemson team's built to do some really, really good things elsewhere around the league. SMU is good. They built. They're interesting because they've built their O lines and D lines over the last couple of years through the portal as they made the move from the AAC, the American to the ACC, and then you look at Miami. They have talent. Undoubtedly, they have talent. I think a lot of it will depend on how Carson Beck acclimates himself to Shannon Dawson's offense, the offensive coordinator at Miami. Dawson's done well with a lot of different quarterbacks, like even dating back to his time at West Virginia when he was with Geno Smith and that crew that moved from the Big East to the Big 12. He's really had some talented players. He stop at Kentucky, and then obviously with Miami last year and what he did with Cam Ward. I'm fascinated to see how Carson Beck fits there. Miami's built well on the O-line and the D-line. And then to me, you mentioned Georgia Tech. I'm in that camp that Georgia Tech should be pretty good this year. Haynes King, if they can keep him healthy, right, and that's the key. If they can keep Haynes King healthy, I don't know if there's another quarterback like him in college football with the way he runs the ball. He's looking to run over people, and you pair him and Jamal Haynes, the running back, and then Georgia Tech has always had a pretty good front with Brent Key, whether he was the head coach, the interim coach, or the O-line coach. I trust that method, that formula. Now, they lost some pieces on defense, but I trust that formula. They brought in a transfer at running back too, Malachi Hosley from Penn, who can add to that running game also. I think that team can give a lot of people trouble, and if the games break right, they'll be in the race to get to Charlotte for the ACC title game. Louisville should be okay, and Duke should be okay. I think kind of the first 5, 6 are pretty projectable to be good. But like after that, Matt, everybody else, it's like we'll see. We'll see with how the portal acquisitions shake out, how the teams come together, how the teams adjust to new coaches. Right, North Carolina, there's the obvious one, and Bill Belichick, but you have the Stanford situation out west, where Andrew Luck is the general manager, and he had to bring in Frank Reich as the interim coach. And Cal's a little bit different this year now with Ron Rivera as the GM, and Justin Wilcox. It seems like a lot of folks have pegged him as someone who could be on the hot seat. And Virginia Tech, you don't know exactly what you're going to get from them either. Might depend on the health of Kyron Drones. But it feels like it's a huge year for Brent Pry and whether or not that thing's going to continue.
Yeah, I'm with you, Greg. I mean, and Georgia Tech, by the way, does not play UVA or Miami on its slate, so avoiding Miami could help them, although Miami a couple years ago had that crazy stumbling game. And that October 11th game when the Hokies go to Georgia Tech will be rather fascinating. I'll get you on this one. Thank you so much for the time and look forward to getting you back on the program as we get rolling here into football season. Let's just to finish up your quick take thoughts on the football, the baseball and the basketball situations where UVA sits with both programs right now. I wouldn't say state of flux, but both in transition mode still, right?
Yeah, for sure. The baseball situation, I feel like, is going to stabilize quickly. I feel like Chris Pollard has done a really, really good job managing and navigating the roster. He brought a bunch of his players from Duke and kept some very key players who were on Virginia's team last year, particularly Eric Becker, the shortstop, who was projected to be a top 15, 20 pick in next year's MLB draft. And you pair Becker with AJ Gracia, the center field transfer from Duke. That's a pretty good place to start if you're Chris Pollard in terms of your lineup. The pitching, I think, is a little bit more of a question, but Pollard in the task he has in replacing Brian O'Connor is a behemoth of a challenge after O'Connor, right? 7 College World Series in 22 years. Pollard has set his roster up well, I believe, for them to compete right away. Ryan Odom remade roster. as he transitions in. They've gotten a couple of international imports too, in Thies de Ritter, as well as Johan Grunlo. Grunlo from Germany, de Ritter from Belgium. And I think how they blend that group together is really what's going to matter. They've got 7 transfers, the 2 international players, 2 freshmen, and only 3 returners. So to me, that's going to be kind of wait and see mode. Folks who I've talked to are excited about the talent, though. I even talked to the strength coach, Mike Curtis, the other day for a story that'll be out early next week. And he's like, the amount of athleticism on the team is really, really good. And if they can come together, it's going to be an excellent year.
Yeah, it should be interesting to watch how it unfolds. Sort of with that Odom name carries a lot of weight there in Charlottesville, and people are excited to see what takes place. He is Greg Madia. Give him a follow on the X at Greg Madia. Read his work, Daily Progress, and dailyprogress.com. And he is a lifelong Mets fan, hoping for an October to remember. Thank you so much, my pal. Enjoy the rest of the summer, the little bit we have left, and I'm sure we'll be chatting again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Matt. High school football coming soon. I'm excited for you. I know you get revved up.
Yes, it's a busy time here, like you said. No sleep for you, going from this coaching move, this thing. Same here. We're up cranking out previews, and that's how it is. But always a pleasure, my friend. You be well.
All right, take care, Matt. Bye-bye.
That is Greg